You know, I've loved gaming for as long as I can remember. I can remember going over like my aunt's and uncle's house when I was pretty young. I think maybe about 4, and they had an Atari set up, and I was playing Defender and things like that. And I think that maybe was sort of the start of my love of video games. And then afterwards, I got my own like NES and things like that a few years later, and the love just kind of sprang from that. And then I had, you know, a Sega Genesis, and you know, obviously a Super Nintendo. And but I think the first console that I was able to really buy for myself, which was money that I had saved up, was the Nintendo 64, and then I had bought a Dreamcast not too long after that. And those were like a different period of time for me, because that was when I was growing up, and you know, things were just kind of vastly different back then. And I just remember just being enamored with when I saw the Dreamcast. I was like, whoa, you know, that was just something that I couldn't really I'd never seen anything like it. You know, it's like it was just so amazing. And you know, the funny part about all of this stuff is, for me personally, I gotta say that the journey into like the PlayStation era, like the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, the GameCube, that kind of stuff, was almost sort of a mistake, right? Because, or not a mistake, but I happen to have been suffering with with some health issues, and anxiety and depression being one of them, you know. And so the doctors that I had at the time had mentioned video games. Well, they were like, do you like video games? And I was like, yeah, you know, I've played video games, but I don't play them much anymore. And then so at that particular point, and this was around 2002 or so, you know, that's when sort of this new love and collecting of video games has started to take place. I started collecting older consoles. I started collecting, you know, newer consoles. I got a PS2. I got an Xbox. I got a GameCube. I just started having really a lot of fun with gaming, and it really sprang from there. And I can remember one of the things that really just impressed the hell out of me was in 2003, and then in 2004, I played NFL ESPN 2K. NFL 2K, you know, 04 and 05, right? And when I picked up that, and I know it's a sports game, I literally was just like, you know, being such a football fan, I was in heaven. It totally took my mind off like all the anxiety and depression and all that kind of stuff, and I was just like, wow. And then I started gaming online. You know, I'd come home from work and I'd be playing, you know, NFL 2K5, and I was a top 10 ranked player on the PlayStation side at that particular time. So it was just so much fun. And you know, gaming has always been such a fun thing for me, and such a great pastime, and just a way to forget about it. You know, a lot of people know that I work with animals and things like that, where, you know, animal rescue, where you'll see a dog that was severely abused or something like that, and you're trying, and my job is to help that animal. And sometimes you just see really bad things, and a good way to take your mind off some of that stuff is to play video games. Now, I really got into, you know, like the Xbox 360 era was huge for me, because, you know, Halo 3, Call of Duty 4, you know, they were really just like so many great games that came out, and I just loved it. And now we fast forward, and I kind of, you know, did a bunch of YouTube over the Xbox One and PS4 era, and I'm very kind of, I guess you could say, outspoken about it. But for me personally, I think that, you know, for me, I really enjoy the idea that these consoles are delivering on what they promise. But it seems more and more, even on the PlayStation side, that the promises that we get aren't really the, you know, aren't really exactly what we thought, and we get lied to quite a bit, and that's starting to get frustrating. Now, one of the things that I think we all got hyped up about with the PlayStation 4 was the ability to, you know, have this solid-state drive that was going to be far up above and away anything that's on anything else, right? And I think that sounds absolutely fantastic, okay? When it comes to the idea that, you know, we're going to get this state-of-the-art solid-state drive, which it is, and I think it's fantastic, but then you look at the fact that we're seeing these tests now of much slower solid-state drives working fine with the PlayStation 5. It does make you question it just a little bit. Like this new bit of news that came up from The Verge, the PS5 worked fine with the slowest compatible solid-state drive we could find. again, so it says if the PS5 is already running out of speedy solid-state storage, there's a fix on the way. Sony's new beta allows you to expand your 667 gigabytes of usable space by popping in the same sort of M.2 solid-state drive stick you might slip into your laptop, desktop, or PC. Basically, what they did was a solid-state drive buying guide. They have one that meets all of Sony's recommendations, such as speed of at least 5,500 megabytes a second. That might leave you wondering about slower speed solid-state drives, though. That's why they tracked down an wow, this is an XPG Gamex S50 Lite, one of the slowest compatible PCI Gen 4 drives they could find at 3,900 megabytes a second reads and 3,200 megabytes a second writes, and stuck it into a PlayStation 5 along with another drive. They compared the Lite against the PS5's internal and the Sabrent Rocket in a battery of tests, including load times for games like early PS5 showcases, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and they also measured how long it takes to get back up games to each kind of drive, throwing in a Seagate external hard drive as well for comparison. The verdict, surprisingly, even the slowest compatible solid-state drive they could find had near identical load times to the one Sony includes in the box. Sometimes it's a second slower, sometimes a second or two faster, but basically it's a total wash. Hopping through Dimensions and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, they saw no difference with the slowest solid-state drive in gameplay either. Stepping through Pocket Dimensions was instantaneous, and when there was a slight pause during a boss fight, they saw the same pause on the internal solid-state drive as well. They also didn't necessarily see a huge difference between the drives when it comes to transferring games back and forth, but there was a big surprise, at least in the beta. It appears that Sony may be throwing the right speed of the PS5's own internal drive. It took only 2 minutes 26 seconds to send both PS5 and PS4 copies of Final Fantasy VII Remake to the Sabrent solid-state drive, for instance, but took 12 minutes to go back to the PS5, over 5 times longer. On average, they saw write speeds of around 1,100 megabytes a second, transferring the test games to either the add-on and those back and forth. So for now, the bigger question is this: will game developers fully optimize their games for incredible speeds that a solid-state drive can afford? For instance, take a look at their load. They had some load times for Final Fantasy, and they got all this interesting stuff that you can look at, and I'm going to go ahead and do and link it. The Spider-Man Miles Morales numbers. The game doesn't always load as quickly as it could. Sometimes you'll boot up the game to see Marvel, Insomniac, and PlayStation Studios intros that eat up a whole 26 seconds, making the game take more like 43 seconds to load in total. But other times it'll mysteriously bypass those, loading in more like 17 seconds. Again, so this is very much interesting. Would I run out and buy the slowest PCI Gen 4 solid-state drive so I can buy for my PS5? They says they're not sure because Sony picked its recommended solid-state spec for a reason. Even if today's games and today's PS5s aren't taking full advantages, developers may need that additional headroom in the future. They've been promised 5,500 megabytes a second to deliver instant game worlds, and I'd hate to find out that I bought the wrong drive years down the road. So this is my thought process on this, why it kind of annoys me. Okay, we were promised all of this stuff, and and again, we were told that PlayStation games would take full advantage of the hardware, and now we find out from Jim Ryan himself that Nixxes Studios was also bought to help port PlayStation games to PC. Again, one of the advantages that I thought the PlayStation 5 had over even PC was this incredible solid-state drive. But if they could just put all this shit on PC as well, then what's the point? Are they ever going to really utilize that solid state drive? Because I can't imagine that they would. Why would you if you're going to put your game on PC as well? Because you're going to have to cover so many PC specs. Otherwise, what's the point of putting it on PC if you're just basically are going to put it to where only a few people, or where a super minority of people can enjoy the game that have a solid state drive fast enough, which they don't right now. These are just brand new type of things coming into play. So, to me, it just seems like a bunch of crap. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So yeah, it's a little bit upsetting. So this also talks about the Xbox solid-state drive in the Series X, but one with sustained raw performance of 2.4 gigabytes compared to the PS5's 5.5. So even if developers do take advantage, it's possible many next-gen games never see the full benefit if they're targeting both the Xbox and PlayStation instead of the PS5 specifically. So again, it means only the exclusives would really take advantage of the PlayStation 5 solid-state drive, and since it's so much faster than the Xbox, so they didn't technically. Sony might as well not even have went as hard on the solid state drive as they did, since they're going to put all their crap on PC anyway, and they're going to have to dumb it down for that. And also the fact that multiplats are going to have to run on Xboxes as well. So yeah, the lies pile up, the bull crap kind of piles up, and it is disappointing. I'm sort of disenfranchised, more so now than I've been in a long time with gaming, and I hope that maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I would love to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions on this. Let me know what you think. I would really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Fact them up. Crapgamer out.